Prior to that, our ballot marking devices are all supposed to be in the location of our poll. Up to that point, I had no idea that mine were not there. But when I went in on Sunday, I'm to pick up my poll pads, a lot of material, and the poll pads are really an updated version of the numbered list of voters. It's just on an iPad-like device. And it also has a place where I can encode the cards for the voters, the voter access cards. But when I went in, the only thing I received was my telephone. And
Ms. Foyles, I'm sorry. Could you? We've got limited time. Why don't we skip ahead to when you were involved with the recount on November 14th?
I'd be happy to.
Okay.
On Saturday, well, I was called the day before on the 13th, Friday the 13th. I was called and asked, could I obtain two of my assistant managers, and would I be willing to go down to perform the audit? I said, yes, I would. Unfortunately, we had to sign up for the entire 5 days, Saturday through Wednesday, and from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. every day. If we could not commit to that time, they did not want our services. So I could, but my other assistant managers could not. I did go down with another manager, and our first box that we finally got close to 10 o'clock in the morning, I believe it was 9:45, because they didn't have enough tables for everybody. They weren't prepared for as many as they asked to come. Our first box that we got was a corrugated cardboard box that was not the size of a typical file box, but it was just like maybe a book box if you were moving. It was bound together with packaging tape, and on the top of that, clear packaging tape, on the top of that was the seal that should be totally pressed down like a sticker from the Secretary of State's office, which should, according to the chain of custody, have the signatures of those who had prepared this box, who had been the last to touch it. Likewise, at the end, that would have been my responsibility once we had gone through the contents to do the same thing, replace it with a new seal with my signature and my partner's signature. We were instructed how we were to do the ballots, and our first batch, our first box, contained 8 batches of at least 100 apiece. One batch did have 110 in it. And as we went through the batches, they were normal absentee ballots, and most of them were pretty worn until we came up to a batch that is, my words were pristine. It was white. It was so white. And this is a typical absentee ballot. You can see how when it comes to you in the mail, how it's got many folds in it. These had no folds. You could see where it should have been folded if it went through a folding machine, or for the voter to figure out easily how to do that. But these did not have that. I was running my hands up, and I said to my seatmate, I said, feel these. They feel different. And when you have felt absentee ballots for as long as I have, yeah, the years are creeping up there, you know the feel of them. You know the feel of a real dollar bill. You know the feel of a play dollar bill, even though it might look genuine. But the thing that really jumped out at us, besides the feel of these ballots, besides there were no folds, was the fact that the first one that was bubbled in had almost a little eclipse of white in the bubble where you would bubble in. And in that ballot, everything else was right there. But as we began to proceed through, because we had to sort these by Donald J. Trump, Joseph R. Biden, and Joe Jorgensen, and then write-in if we happened to have a write-in. What we began to notice was an overwhelming amount were exactly, not possibly, but exactly the same. So these absentee ballots had no folds in them. yet they were presented as absentee ballots, even if they'd wound up as a provisional ballot, which is similar in structure, just different type of envelopes, it would have been exactly the same. There would have been folds in them, but these ballots were exactly the same, and there was one in the middle of this stack that all of us at times have pulled something out of a scanner or a copier too soon, and the image is not square on the paper. And that's exactly the way one of these ballots was in this batch. It was also striking to me that rather than having the customary 100 to the batch, it had 110. We found this to be quite an oddity.
Talk about the when you were down there about the organization. Oh, I'm sorry. Talk about the organization when you were down there and you came down there, and on that, I think it was a Sunday morning, you came down there and you thought you were going to be down there all day, and they told you to leave.
On the second day, we stayed until about 4:45 on Saturday. We were instructed to come back Sunday morning, which we did. We were very surprised to find no lines. What they had done was not only had poll managers there, Fulton County poll managers, but the previous day had a number of Fulton County employees who were there. Also, the girls behind us, they were librarians, but they were Fulton County librarians. They were there to do this. So on Sunday morning when we went down, it was fairly void of anybody. We were just very surprised. We were instructed to go to our table that we had the day before. People came in after us, including the people at the table behind us. We gave our table number so that we could get our ballots. We waited and we waited. The people behind us got theirs. They had over 3,000 from Sandy Springs precincts. The people in front of us had over 6,000 from another precinct. And when our box came, our eyes were getting kind of big because that was a lot of ballots to get through. When we got ours, we opened up our box, and the Fulton County ballot boxes are like heavy-duty suitcases with padding on the inside and roller carts. We had the young man unseal ours, and then when we opened it, I was kind of aghast. We had one batch of the machine-generated ballots in there from the BMDs, the ballot marking device. There were 60 of them in that batch. They were all from a quality living center, and which is in, I believe, southwest Atlanta. I do know it's South Atlanta. And all we had was 60. And we stayed around, and we asked for another batch, and we waited, and we waited, and we waited. Did not get one. We volunteered to help the other people who had such enormous stacks, and we were told that we were done.